Hello, good evening, and thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Blake Burman. President Trump in primetime from the White House. His year one, term two sales pitch to the American public is just hours away.
Well, I think the message this evening is we inherited a mess, and we've done a great job, and we continue to, and our country is going to be stronger than ever before, very soon.
And in minutes, the healthcare conundrum. The House. Live look right now behind me. Set to vote on the new Republican healthcare plan just hours after several Republicans crossed the aisle. So why did they revolt? Also this hour, the accused murderer, Nick Reiner, in court for the first time as his siblings speak out on the deaths of their parents, former director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. And American independence. NewsNation with an exclusive look at the Trump administration's efforts to reduce our reliance on China. We'll show you the mountain in Texas. It's this thing right here that is potentially a part of the answer. But first tonight, here from the Hill, a live look at Capitol Hill, screen left there, and a live look at the White House on the right. President Trump's primetime address to the nation. Trump expected to tout his accomplishments in year one of his second term. The White House telling NewsNation that the president will focus on his efforts to, quote, bring back our country to greatness, end quote. But tonight, screen left, an unusual preemption. The House set to vote on the last-minute Republican health care plan. It comes just hours after several Republicans crossed the aisle, saying they are ready to back the Democrats. Joe Khalil on this new momentum in a moment, but first to our Kelly Meyer, live at the White House tonight with what we are expected to hear from the president just about 3 hours from now, right on the dot, Kelly.
Yeah, we're getting close now, Blake. Unclear if he's going to wade into the healthcare battle happening right now on Capitol Hill, but focusing on the cost of everything from healthcare to home goods is expected to be a major focus of this address tonight. President Trump arriving at the White House this evening, telling us he would see us later tonight and not taking any questions. But as we saw there in the Oval Office tonight, his Secretary of State pacing back and forth in the Oval Office, waiting for Trump to get back here to the White House. So we know conflicts abroad also expected to be a part of the address, including those ongoing strikes on alleged drug boats and whether or not the president will take it a step further with land strikes in Venezuela, something he has been teasing could happen, quote, soon. And a conflict the president had hoped to solve on day one is still ongoing. That's the war in Ukraine. The president is expected to tout his peace efforts. As we learn, his team will meet with Russian officials this weekend in Miami. But back at home, a big focus on affordability, a message he's taking into the new year as he looks to hold on to control of Congress in the 2026 midterms. The White House tonight not expecting any new policy announcements in this address, but of course we always expect the unexpected here, Blake.
One way to put it indeed. Kelly Meyer, live tonight over at 1600. Kelly, thank you. So as the president prepares to speak, this is a live look right now, the floor of the House of Representatives, voting on the Republican health care plan. Now, some House members earlier today breaking with congressional leadership on this very issue, now supporting an extension of the Obamacare tax credits that are set to expire at the end of the year, the thing that the Democrats want to see happen. Here now, right in the middle of all the action, a busy night up on the Hill, our Joe Khalil with the very latest. Joe?
Yeah, Blake, so the bill that Republicans put forward that's getting a vote very soon, it's got several measures that Republicans think in the long term will bring down the costs of health care, things like creating more competition in the marketplace. But it does not touch the immediate crisis, the ticking time bomb that is these Obamacare premium subsidies. They're going to expire at the end of this year. And when they do, unless Congress acts, you're going to see more than 20 million Americans' health care premiums monthly go up. In some cases, hundreds, some cases, thousands of dollars. So there is a bipartisan effort. Moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats trying to find a sort of middle ground where they maybe extend in the short term for 1 year or 2 years those subsidies and also tackle the priorities Republicans want to do. Those moderate Republicans fail to get the speaker to include their measures into this bill. So those moderate Republicans got mad, and they actually signed on to a Democratic effort to extend those subsidies for 3 years. And take a listen. We caught up with a couple of them explaining why they decided to break ranks with their own party, and then another Republican, Andy Biggs, explaining why he thinks that's a terrible idea.
We were really left with no choice. We worked in a good faith effort over these many weeks to come up with a bipartisan compromise.
If you want to see premiums go down, where you don't even need subsidies, then fix the program.
Now, Blake, because Democrats' effort it's called a discharge petition, they needed 218 signatures just to bring their bill to the floor. It didn't even have a chance to get a vote until today when those 4 Republicans crossed the aisle. So sometime in January, that bill will be forced onto the House floor. But the bottom line is there is no solution, no bill right now that is able to pass the House, Senate, and get to the president's desk dealing with health care right now.
Joe Kay live tonight, Capitol Hallways. When there's breaking news movement on that vote, you will watch it with us live. Full panel, though. Joining me now, Mick Mulvaney, former Trump White House Chief of Staff, News Nation contributor. Julia Manchester, White House reporter for The Hill. Chris Steyerwalt, News Nation political editor, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And Dan Cannonen, former Battleground States director for both the Biden and Harris campaigns. Hello to you all. Busy night. Thank you for being in. We are doing it. Healthcare in a second. First, though, to the White House, Mick, as the president is set to give this essentially year-end speech to try to tout his accomplishments. Take me through his mind. Take me inside the White House right now. What's Donald Trump doing?
I was thinking about it. It depends. If this is going to be a Festivus-style airing of the grievances, then there's really not that much prep. Okay. If it's going to be a serious speech, and he does have that gear. People, don't usually associate Donald Trump with staying on the script, but he does. He does it for State of the Union addresses. He does it for the United Nations address. He can do it. The simple fact, I just heard this for the first time from Kelly Meyer, that Marco Rubio is down there right now tells me this is going to be a more serious speech, foreign policy. Expect to hear more about Venezuela, and maybe a little bit less of the riffing that you might hear from, say, a rally. So maybe a serious speech tonight.
That's a great segue, Vic. I think when we talked about the speech he gave in Pennsylvania now a week ago, 10 days ago, whenever it was, we had a similar preview conversation about what he was thinking, what he would do. And I think you actually said, look, I hope he doesn't go in and say affordability is a hoax. And he brings not the riffing, but the serious bit of it. And we discussed whether he could do that in a speech like that. He didn't do it in Pennsylvania, and it hasn't worked. And I think tonight is another chance to get that done for him. I do agree. I think the Rubio piece, and by all indications, there's a Venezuelan through line perhaps in this speech. Again, not to defend drug boats and not to suggest Maduro is a good guy, but you got to wonder, is he going to actually bring Congress along or the American people along, or what might be a war now with Venezuela and regime change, which certainly looks like it's a distraction from this economy that's going very, very badly for him and Republicans right now. Things to watch.
Over the past year, Julia, just some of the president's record, right?
Yeah.
The Southwest land border encounters. I mean, it went from a lot to arguably his greatest success so far. Those are the numbers. You can see how it is almost at zero at this point. The White House would point to things like the stock market at an all-time high, gas prices well below $3 a gallon, basically across most of the country, wages at 3.5%. But then we also saw this week unemployment rising to 4.6%. There's a million more people unemployed now compared to the start of the year, and inflation is still there at 3%.
Right. The border is a bright spot for the administration. We have seen him repeatedly tout that. And I think almost draw it to Venezuela in a way, talking about human trafficking, kind of drawing that to drug trafficking, trying to make a case there. We'll see what's announced on that end. But the economy is a weak spot for President Trump. And as Dan said, he did have an opportunity when he went to Pennsylvania, and he likely will when he goes to North Carolina, to talk about this issue of affordability. The question, though, is tonight when he's in the Oval Office. Of course, North Carolina and Pennsylvania are in many ways microcosms of the country. They're purple swing states, but he's addressing a much more broad audience than he was tonight than he was in Pennsylvania at that rally. That's why I would imagine we're not going to get a rally version of Trump, but who knows? It's Donald Trump. He's unpredictable.
Well, you better have something to say. If this is supposed to be a valedictory of 2025 and to say actually things are going much better than you think they are, and if this is just that, we hear from Donald Trump every day. Every day. The reason that our colleague Julia has to go all over the country and all over the place is because at any moment, at any hour of any day, Donald Trump, or he will go on his Twitter machine, he'll go on The Truth, he'll say, we hear from Donald Trump around the clock. This can't just be that, right? You can't say, everybody stop what you're doing. We're going to stop normal television coverage. We want roadblock coverage. You got to say something. I have to assume it's Venezuela, because there isn't anything else to say, right? You can't, you don't ask for this and then come out and say, you know, actually the price of eggs is a lot lower than people think it is. You better have something to say.
Yes, but keep in mind, how does he think? What he's thinking is, okay, the polls are not doing very well. That's because people are not delivering a good message. Who does Donald Trump think is the best messenger for his?
He does.
He is, right? He's like, look, none of you folks know how to do this. I'm going to do it myself. Get me a primetime slot. That's what this could be. I'm with you. I think it's going to be Venezuela. I think it'll be a serious speech. But if not, it's because Trump is going to go out and prove to everybody else that he can deliver the message better than anybody else.
Let me take you to the floor right now. House of Representatives live look, because there is another big story at this hour, and that is Republicans, well, the House of Representatives voting on the Republican health care plan, sort of this last-minute move from House Republicans to say, here's how we are trying to deal with health care. But the bigger story coming earlier today when 4 House Republicans said, you know what, we are going to sign on to the Democrats' plan to force a vote on extending the Obamacare tax credits for another 3 years. Chris, I look at the 5 states in the United States of America, Florida, Texas, California, Georgia, North Carolina, with at least 1 million people on Obamacare. There are 74 Republicans in the House in those states, 72 Democrats. How big was what we saw with 4 Republicans saying, you know what, I'm with the Democrats here?
I see Senate race, Senate race, Senate race is what I see when I look up there. I see 3 potentially real good Senate races. Look, the reason this is so politically painful for Republicans is the people who this hits the hardest, the worst afflicted, are the people between, let's say, 55 and 65, the people who don't have health insurance through their employer. They're waiting until they get on Medicare. Obamacare was going to be the bridge, right? And so they went in the independent exchanges, they went in the markets. What do those people sound like to you? They sound like voters to me. That's what those people sound like to me. Those sound like high propensity voters, and they're about to get zapped with maybe $1,000 a month in additional cost for something that was supposed to be a bridge to Medicare. That creates a backlash that is larger than the number that you see on the sheet.
So they're voting on the House plan, even if that were to pass, if it doesn't go anywhere in the Senate, and then the plan to potentially expand the Obamacare subsidies for another 3 years. That might not happen. That vote might not happen in the House until the start of next year. One of the storylines today, real quickly, Mike Johnson saying he has not lost control of the House on a day when 4 Republicans just said we're with the Democrats. I'll end on your laughter. Has he lost control of the House? Real quick.
Yeah, he has. And Trump has lost control of the party as well. I mean, look at Indiana rejecting him on redistricting. He just went to Pennsylvania and talked about affordability, called it a hoax. Right. And then 3 of those 4 discharge votes were from the state of Pennsylvania.
Well, look at the Republicans who broke with Mike Johnson: Bresnahan, McKenzie, Fitzpatrick, Lawler. 3 in Pennsylvania, 1 in downstate New York. I mean, this shows how politically toxic health care will be for Republicans in the battle to maintain their majority in the House. If that doesn't send a message to Mike Johnson, I don't know what
Why'd
does.
you laugh?
I'm not with Canada on Trump having lost control of the party yet. I think there are fissures right now. I think he doesn't have certainly what he had 6 months ago. But the speaker's out of control. I mean, there's no question. You can lose maybe a discharge petition led by Republicans like.
6:20 here on the East Coast and in Rhode Island tonight as the manhunt continues for the suspect in the deadly Brown University shooting. Police in Providence now releasing new clues this afternoon, including a detailed map and enhanced photos of someone that they believe may have important information as they continue to urge the public to come forward. Our Jessica Cartalia live once again for us in Providence tonight with what police and authorities are saying there. Jessica?
Well, Blake, we just walked out of this press conference a short time ago. We were hoping to get a lot of new information, and unfortunately, that was not the case. What we do know is there are 9 agencies now involved in this search. They released a new photo of a person who they say may have had contact with their new person of interest. At this point, they're not clarifying whether this is a man or a woman, which is interesting. It's also difficult to see in this photo, so it's hard to determine exactly who this person could be or how they could be connected to a potential suspect. Police also showed us a map with a blue perimeter around a neighborhood. You're looking at that map right there on your screen. They want everyone within that perimeter to look at their cameras. Then they have a green area, which shows us where the suspect was, and then a red area on that map that's like in the upper left-hand corner of your screen that shows where he was immediately after he left that engineering building on campus. Regarding DNA evidence, the police chief was asked if they found any DNA evidence from the crime scene that they believe could belong to the shooter, and here's what they had to say.
We have found a lot of evidence that we need to, and we use and utilize it to hopefully guide us in the right direction in order to identify the individual that we're looking for.
Is that the DNA evidence?
This actual physical evidence, there's DNA evidence, there's a lot of evidence that we're collecting to ensure that we can find the answer.
And the mayor of Providence also updated the victims tonight. 2 have now been discharged. 1 is in critical but stable condition. 5 are in stable condition. The mayor tells us that he spoke with the parents. They say that all of their kids are improving, so that's great news tonight. Also, Brown University officials say they are cooperating 100% with police. All camera footage that they've had on campus has been sent over to the police. I asked them why we have not seen any of that footage, Blake, and unfortunately, I could not get a straight answer. At one point, a man, unclear if he was with a media outlet or just someone who came into this press conference, was yelling at them, asking why we're not getting more information.
Jessica Cartalia with that new information tonight. Jessica, thank you. Still much more ahead. Here on the Hill, the son of the Hollywood legend Rob Reiner, appearing in court for the first time today, charged now with the murder of his parents, as we also hear for the first time from the family's other children. Plus, how a mountain in Texas could be a gold mine in stopping our reliance on China. Allie Bradley with what's happening there and underground. All right, some breaking news here as we continue to keep our eyes on the floor of the House of Representatives. This is the vote right now on the House Republican health care plan. It just got underway moments ago. This is the plan that was put forth the other day that tries to crack down on pharmacy benefit managers, expand association plans, but also does not include an extension of the Obamacare tax credits that would impact 24 million Americans by the end of this year. You can see it is a packed House of Representatives tonight. When we get that final tally, we'll give it to you here any moment now. Also tonight, Nick Reiner making his first court appearance today, just days after his parents, the acclaimed director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, were found dead in their Los Angeles home. Reiner appearing briefly in court, sitting behind glass as his attorney spoke on his behalf. This as Nick's brother and sister spoke publicly for the first time about their parents' death. Our Nancy Liu, live with the very latest tonight out in Los Angeles. Nancy?
Hey there, Blake. Nick Reiner, he is now back at the LA County Jail, and he'll remain behind bars without bail until he's due back here in court on January 7th. That, of course, is in connection with the murders of his famous parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner. He's already officially been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. This morning, Nick Reiner, 32 years old, he was shackled and in a blue suicide prevention vest, but out of view, he was behind some glass after the judge ruled not to allow any images or video of the accused killer. Attorney Alan Jackson asked the judge for a continuance so he and his team can review all of the evidence and the files. The judge agreed to that, so Reiner is not expected to enter a plea until January 7th. Now, a new video from early Sunday, likely just hours before the murders, Nick Reiner is seen casually strolling by a gas station, and this is not far from the family's Brentwood estate. LAPD tracked him down Sunday evening near USC in South LA, arresting him without incident. Now, in their first statement since the tragedy, surviving siblings Jake and Romy Reiner, they spoke of unimaginable pain over the devastating loss of their parents, also asking for speculation to be tempered with compassion and humanity.
Okay.
Blake?
Our Nancy Liu live in Los Angeles tonight. Nancy, thank you. Breaking news now here in Washington. Want to give you a look at the House floor. Moments ago, you could see there in a packed House floor, the Republicans' health care plan just passed by a vote of, by a handful, it made it by. And now what that means is the plan that was put forth by Mike Johnson, Republican leadership, goes to the Senate, where it faces an uncertain future. It's paired today as well with the news that several House Democrats want to also force a vote to extend Obamacare subsidies. A whole lot breaking this moment on the House floor. Republicans with a win there on their health care plan, but still a lot of questions as to what comes next for the fate of health care in America. Our panel will take it up in about 10 minutes. But first, breaking this evening as well, the U.S. government admits failures in the January 29th mid-air collision over the Potomac River. The Justice Department now saying in a court filing that missteps by the Army helicopter pilots and air traffic control contributed to that crash. As you probably remember, 67 people died in the accident when an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines regional jet over the Potomac at night. That was part of the surveillance video that captured it all. President Trump today meeting with the families of the 2 Americans killed in Syria over the weekend during a dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base. The Iowa National Guard members, Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar of Des Moines and Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard of Marshalltown, brought back home, along with interpreter Ayad Mansour Sakat. Trump, the commander-in-chief, talking to reporters on his way back to the White House.
Well, that was a beautiful event for 3 great people. And they're now looking down, and their parents and wives and all of the people that were there were, devastated, but great people, great people.
The 3 killed last weekend in what the Pentagon says was an ambush attack by a shooter linked to ISIS. President Trump has vowed retaliation. Also tonight in the race for rare earth element dominance, the U.S. is now pushing to establish its own independence. According to a U.S. geological survey, China, we've talked about this often on the show here, China holds the biggest share of global rare earth element production, with the U.S. trailing far behind. Now, those minerals are crucial, needed for everything from your smartphone to your vehicle to the fighter jets that our military uses. The Trump administration now taking steps to try to curb America's reliance on China for those minerals. A lot of this goes to the back and forth trade talks and trade war, whatever you want to describe it, between the U.S. and China. Our Allie Bradley joins us live now in Texas to show us what's going on there in the Lone Star State, a mountain, rare earths, the U.S. versus China. You got it all, Allie.
Yeah, you're exactly right here, Blake. And this looks like a rock, right? But check this out. It is actually rare earth minerals taken from one of the most unique deposits in the country. And that unique deposit might just be key to the Trump administration's push to make the U.S. mineral independent. And it's all starting right here in West Texas. Now, we want to show you here at the site nearby where you can literally see buckets as far as the eye can see. These are all filled with those rare earth minerals. And the these are materials that are critical to national defense and modern technology. Blake listed off a few of those things, but these elements are essential for high-performance magnets that are used in motors, weapon systems, and advanced technology as well. Very, very critical here. As the Trump administration builds a new coalition with allies like Japan and Israel, the focus, it's on cutting reliance on China for these critical minerals. Take a listen to what the land commissioner had to say.
China has a corner on this market. We think this is the only and largest complete set of rare earth minerals not under China's control in the world. And these are important for our jets to fly. It's national security. It's everyday convenience. It's taking away this economic ploy from China.
Now, we want to show you a smaller scale operation near Round Top. This is a preview of what's coming. They're also mining rhyolite as well, but full mining for Round Top is now fast-tracked to begin in 2028. Blake.
Our Allie Bradley, live tonight there, Sierra Blanca, Texas. Like I said, in the middle of it all on a hugely important story with that look for us. Allie, thank you very much. Our coverage continues here on the Hill. Other side of the break, big news, whole lot going on. White House, Capitol Hill. We're back. All right, welcome back. So about 2 hours and 20 minutes from the President of the United States addressing the nation here in the middle of December, set to address concerns over affordability, also tout his administration's accomplishments as he sees it. The speech also comes as health care subsidies are set to expire for millions of Americans on Obamacare insurance plans. Midterm elections, less than a year out. A big moment for the president and voters alike. Full panel back with me once again. Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation contributor, former Trump White House Chief of Staff. Julia Manchester, White House reporter for The Hill. Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And Dan Cannonen, former Battleground States Director for the Biden-Harris campaigns. You guys got a little halftime?
We did.
A little break, and we're back.
Looking at film, doing the X's and O's.
Doing the X's and O's. Mick, for the president tonight speaking, here's his approval rating. It was 56% in October, tick, 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 all the way down to the low 40s, and some polls even have it lower than that. You know him. You used to work on him with these speeches. Given that's part of the backdrop here, what are you expecting?
He's not happy about that, by the way. That is really bugs him, especially when some of his favorite media outlets have numbers that are actually lower than that. Yep. So, again, if he gets caught up in that tonight, you're going to have sort of the greatest hits semi sort of rally speech. If he can stay focused and talk about policy, then I think he gets something else. But no, he doesn't. He does not like that, and he's absolutely convinced that he can change it. You give him enough primetime TV. He believes he can sell anything, including whatever policy he's coming out with tonight.
You used to work for a president and a vice president on the other side of the aisle. What are you looking for tonight?
Well,
carnage. No, not at all.
I think Mick is right. He believes he can sell anything, and at the end of the day, people are going to know what they're paying and when it's too much. And I just think that whether the tariffs are one thing, and the price of housing and the price of groceries and all these things that are still eating at the American public, and the fact that there hasn't been a clear recognition of that by Republicans or Trump in this gaslighting that I've talked about before is a problem for him. But I think this health care vote, I mean, it's untenable that someone making 50 grand a year is all of a sudden going to pay $1,000 or $2,000 more in health insurance next year. That's an untenable political position the Republicans are just now waking up to. And I think it's really telling that 3 of the 4 came from Pennsylvania, where he just did his tour, and there are probably more coming. We'll see how many more come on the discharge vote when it actually comes in January. But he's got a huge problem in the economy. I'm not sure he really understands how big of a problem this is, except that he sees it's not going well in the media and on the polls. But it's a huge problem.
Julia, one of the things that we've seen in the recent races is a shift to the left, right? Obviously, the story in the 2024 election was a shift to the right. But you look at what we've seen in recent House races and other races, you've got the arrow there, whether it's red or blue, moving left. And that's part of the backdrop of the speech tonight.
I think it's certainly part of the backdrop and wanting to appeal to maybe those more centrist voters. I mean, I think we certainly are seeing more polarization on both sides of the aisle, but he is a very broad audience tonight. I mean, unlike, and I said this earlier in the show, unlike when he was in Pennsylvania, when he'll be in North Carolina on Friday, he's appealing to voters across the board, which is why I think if he were to make this the greatest hits of his past rallies and go off script, et cetera, I just don't see how that works. I think presidential Trump, when Trump is reading off of a teleprompter, plays much better with those voters, but we'll see. I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to be discussed yet in this speech. You know, I think the economy is going to be a tough sell for him, healthcare as well. But I think there are bright spots for him. He could talk about the border and also talk about foreign policy, though we know that that's not a top priority for Republicans.
Is this speech occurring because it's the end of year one, almost certainly the calendar year, but the end of year one, or because of those two graphics that I showed?
Well, you know, one of the problems that the president has in this second term is that he's frequently seems to have lost the ability to shock. This week, because the way that Donald Trump worked in the past was he could let loose a rabbit and we'd all have to go chase it. Americans have become accustomed to, whether positively or negatively, whether they're at peace with it or whether they're inured to something that they don't like, Donald Trump doesn't shock and disrupt the conversation the way he used to. But he did this week with Rob Reiner, right? He came out and he said something so heinous about Rob Reiner's death that it actually I was reminded of how frequently he was able to do that in the past, say something truly awful and throw the whole conversation into a cocked hat. He has another chance to shock tonight. And perhaps he could shock in a positive way. And the positive shock that he could deliver tonight would be to announce a new policy, a new initiative, have a presidential, well-scripted, concise message to the people, not just like, hey, do you remember me? Yes, we remember you.
Dan?
I agree with that. But again, the problem is, and I don't know that he really gets this, maybe he does, but the shock stuff will distract you.
Right.
But people will not be distracted by healthcare premiums that are double next month. I mean, it's not theoretical. It's not just, a threat that may emerge at some point. It's going to be very, very real, and they will remember then.
Turning to healthcare now, Dan, Chris,
set you up.
Julia, Nick, thank you, appreciate it. Two lawmakers, Democrat and Republican, join me right now after that vote on the House floor, and after the break. I'm told they're miking up. Congressman Kevin Kiley, Congressman Jimmy Panetta, when we return. All right, welcome back here to the Hill on News Nation. A big day for healthcare in America as a vote just took place in the House of Representatives, passing the Republican healthcare plan, but also big news on the Affordable Care Act and the 24 million people who are enrolled in Obamacare, as today 4 House Republicans came forward and said they would support an extension, a 3-year extension. And here's what that could mean. A new analysis, if Obamacare doesn't go forward. A new analysis from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities breaks down the potential impact by congressional district. It shows that a 45-year-old making $32,000 in these 2 districts in California could see their annual premium spike by almost $1,500. You see it there, from about $700 to more than $2,100. And this is a story that we would see all across the country if Congress doesn't extend the Obamacare tax credits. The 2 congressmen who represent those 2 districts, Republican Kevin Kiley, right side of your screen, Democrat Jimmy Panetta, with us as well. They are in a coalition of 35 House members working to come up with a bipartisan health care solution. Congressman, it's been a busy day. You just came from the House to the cameras. I appreciate the hustle. And I got to say, a Democrat and a Republican standing here together speaking on the issue shows the seriousness. I appreciate you both. Congressman Panetta, let me start with you. What are you guys trying to do as Democrats and Republicans here and the way forward?
First and foremost, it's making sure the tax credits for the ACA get extended, because as you showed in that brief graphic, this is going to lead to a crisis. I mean, you get a family of 4 making $128,000 a year. Their premiums are going to go up $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year. A family of 4 at $60,000, their premiums are going to go up $300 a month. that's why we wanted to make sure that we extend those tax credits. That's why I give credit not just to Kevin Kiley, but I give credit to the other Republicans who signed on to the discharge petition today that demands a vote on extending the tax credits for 3 years. First and foremost, we had to do that.
Congressman Kiley, when that vote comes forward on the 3-year extension, could happen this year, most likely happening early next year. What are you planning to do, and how many other Republicans might join along?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm undecided on it right now, and the reason for that is not because I don't think we should extend the subsidies. Of course, I think we ought to extend the subsidies. I've offered a bill to do just that. I've signed 2 discharge petitions on other compromise measures. I am very reluctant to get behind this extension, though, that's 3 years without any reforms. And the reason for that is I don't think it's ever going to become law. The Senate has already said we're not going to do that. They voted down that precise proposal. So, Jimmy might not agree with me fully on this particular point. I'm sure he shares my frustration with Speaker Johnson for not bringing a bill to extend the subsidies to the floor. I'm also frustrated with the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for not endorsing a compromise measure that could actually become law.
And it's fascinating because is governing.
Yeah, go for it, Congressman.
It's governing by discharge. Yeah, no, the frustration is based on the fact that we're governing by discharge petition and not governing by leadership. And that's a real issue with both of us.
It's fascinating listening to you both because you both are working together to try to come to a solution. But what I just heard was you disagreeing on the solution. And I just think the average person at home watching us on News Nation or listening to us on SiriusXM might say, I see them. It's commendable, but can there really be a solution if guys like this who want to work together still don't have the final compromise?
Well, no, we actually did both sign on to the same bill. For example, the Gottheimer-Kiggins bill, we've both signed the discharge petition for that. We've both, as you mentioned, signed on to the framework of 35 bipartisan lawmakers. We actually agree on the fundamental aspects of this, which is why I'm frustrated with the leadership of both parties who have kind of staked out positions that are much more extreme on each side, rather than coming together on the proposals that actually have demonstrated bipartisan support and that I think could pass the House, pass the Senate, and become law.
Yeah.
Congressman Panetta,
Kevin brings up a good point.
There's a delay. Go for it.
He was about to say I brought up a good point, so we definitely want to hear that.
No, I'll give it to you.
He brings up a good point. It brings up a good point in that there's a short-term fix, and that's extending the tax credits for the ACA. But there's got to be a long-term fix. There's got to be serious analysis in a bipartisan fashion that looks at why these costs are rising so much in our health care, how we can fix Medicare, how we can ensure that there's Medicaid to our constituents.
Yeah, so here's Congressman Jason Smith to that end. He's a Republican, influential one up in the House. I want to play for you what he said and then pick it up on the other side.
Find one American that says that their health care is now cheaper today than it was when they passed this disastrous bill. You won't. You won't find one. In fact, the sky is falling because of their enhanced premium tax credits.
I don't think he's wrong that you won't find one person who would tell you across this country that healthcare has gotten cheaper or stayed the same. So is it the time, Congressman Panetta, I know we're talking about subsidy extensions. Is it the time to say, you know what, maybe we need to take a look at the whole thing when it comes to the Affordable Care Act?
Of course, but at the same time, you got to understand that it's going to be a heck of a lot more expensive if we don't extend these tax credits. That's why that's the first thing we got to do is extend that runway, allow us the time and the opportunity to then have those substantive conversations on the serious issues, on the serious causes of why our health care is so dang much.
If you're one of the 24 million Americans who have these subsidies, they don't really care, quite honestly, about process or any of that. Are their premiums going up January 1st, Congressman, or do you believe there's going to be a short-term fix, whoever's idea it is or for however long?
So I think we still have time. There are 2 days left in this week. There are 2 weeks left in the year. Just last night, I actually prepared an amendment for the Rules Committee that we thought the Speaker was going to allow to go through, but then he said he was going to rule it out of order, which was very disappointing. But that goes to show you that we could, like that, get a solution that would have bipartisan support to the floor, get it passed in the House, get it passed in the Senate, and get this done by the end of the year. if we had the speaker willing to work with us on that, or
I hear
frankly, if we had the minority leader willing to endorse one of the compromises.
I hear your frustration. Mike Johnson said today, Congressman Kiley, you're the Republican, he's the leader there, that he has not lost control. Is he wrong?
Well, there are an increasing number of these discharge petitions, which I think reflects a general sense that the House has not been in the driver's seat when it comes to important policy areas. And you do have now the membership, feeling the need to fill that vacuum. So I hope that the Speaker takes a different approach in the new year, where the House can sort of put itself back in the driver's seat when it comes to the issues that really matter to folks across the country.
Congressman Panetta, I got 10 seconds. Is he wrong?
If I can, it's not just the House and Senate. The president's got to take a leadership role on this as well. If he's concerned about affordability issues, it starts with health care, housing, food, and fuel. This is what he needs to lean into and actually be a leader on this topic.
Jimmy Panetta, a Democrat from California. Kevin Kiley, a Republican from California. Opposite sides of the aisle, trying to work together. I thank you both. Appreciate it. All right, well, Elizabeth Vargas reports. Coming up next here in second, she's talking to the Navy SEAL veteran Bill Brown about the dignified transfer of those American heroes. That is seconds away here on News Nation. I'm Blake Burman. I thank you for staying with us tonight. Busy night of news. Elizabeth starts.